One issue that sometimes parents have with their children these days is that it seems that the children are not able to focus, their attention span is so short, and it becomes a cause of concern. So that is what I want to talk about today. How to help your children to build focus and concentration. My name is Chinepu Ore. I'm your partner in raising outstanding children. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also turn on your notifications so you will be alerted whenever we release new content. So back to the topic of the day. How do you help your child to build concentration? Are you one of those parents that have noticed that your children just don't seem to have the presence of mind to sit through, to study for a long period of time, or to engage in an activity that involves focus and concentration for a long period of time? Then this session likely is for you. Now, I just want to say something that I always say. Every child is different. Every child is wired different. And in one of my sessions, in one of our webinars, and also in our book, How to Help Your Child Excel in School, we talked about different children and their different learning styles. And one of the things we said is that the kinesthetic learner is the hands-on learner, someone that's always on the move, someone that learns by doing. And sometimes it's a bit difficult to get that kind of child to settle down and do something. So first of all, you need to be able to identify what your children's dominant learning styles are. But regardless, there are still children who just find it difficult to focus. Children who are always up and about, they can't sit still, maybe they are in class, their minds are wandering. You find out that they are present physically but they are absent minded, and those children do not get so much from what they're supposed to be doing in school. And then at home as well, they might not want to read books, whether leisure reading or what have you. So there are children like that. Of course, there is the health or medical aspect to this. In some of the children, you know, hear of attention deficit hypersensitivity disorder, that is the ADHD. So some children actually have a medical condition called the ADHD, and sometimes if you have done every other thing and nothing is working, maybe you need to have your child evaluated and assessed to be sure that it is not a medical condition. But this is just for the average child who does not focus, who is easily distracted, who wouldn't concentrate. Now, one thing that I know that contributes a lot to children not being able to concentrate for long periods of time is because over the years, children are becoming more hung on screens. A lot of children spend so much time watching TV, using one gadget or the other, without parents realizing that this has a negative impact on their concentration level. Yes, it does. Exposing your children to screens for a very long period of time actually reduces focus and concentration levels. I've said before that gadgets, TVs have become inadvertent babysitters. As a parent, I'm sure that maybe you might have made that mistake one or two times, or maybe not, where because you're busy and you need to keep your children engaged so they will not disturb you, just give them a gadget to keep themselves occupied. It might work for you for that period, but in the long run, you're not helping your children. Being exposed to the blue rays from the gadgets have a negative impact on their focus levels, and that is why it is even advised that for people that have challenges with sleeping, they should make sure they turn off every blue lights from TVs or whatever gadgets at least an hour before bedtime, because it does not help the brain. So when you allow your children always to be on the screens, it has a negative impact on their level of focus and their concentration. So the first thing I'm going to advise is that you cut off or cut down screen time. Cut down on screen time. That is the first thing that you need to do for your children. Cut down on screen time. If you want to, we could share with you a link to the number of hours a child should be exposed to the screens in a day for different children, because it varies across different age brackets. But the more exposure they get to the screens, the more their level of focus reduces. So as much as possible, you cut off or cut down screen time. And you know that one thing that about nature is that nature abhors vacuum. So it's not enough to just say that you're going to cut off screen time, but the question is, what are you going to use to engage them when the screens are not there? Because that is the only thing that will make them stay away from the screens for long enough. You need to have a plan in place and alternative activities that your children can engage in so as to limit the screen time. And maybe we'll do a video on how to help your children to manage the screen time. So the first thing I'll always advise for parents that want to help their children to improve their concentration is to reduce screen time. Then the second thing I would advise parents to do is to expose their children to focus games. If your child gets easily distracted, if your child loses concentration, if your child forgets easily, expose them to focus games. Games that causes them to have their attention focused on something for a certain period of time. It works over time. So now those focus games, they don't have to do it for a long stretch at a time, because you're still trying to build their concentration. You're still trying to build them up to not get easily distracted. So they could play the focus games for a short period of time, and then over time you can extend the length of time they are exposed to those focus games. So the question now is, what are focus games? Like I said, they are games that will involve concentration for a long period of time. These are memory games. Some of the focus games you can expose your children is something like crossword puzzles. You could get a book, crossword puzzles book or Sudoku book, where the children have to like pay attention, maybe word searches. Sometimes crossword puzzles can be nerve-wracking, but they can always start with simpler ones and graduate to more complex ones. They can also use word searches, make it fun for them, where they have to concentrate and try to identify the words that has been hidden in a matrix of letters. And then you can also expose them to memory games. These things are things that you can do very easily with things you can find around you. You can play memory games using cards. You could use playing cards like your Joker set, or you could use flashcards. Flashcards could help children. Let's say, for example, you want your children to also learn shapes or something alongside, they could use flashcards. So what are the memory games? Matching games. Maybe they should match the cards that have the same shapes, that have the same color, that have the same number or something. They just have those cards, turn them face down on the surface, and then they try to match those cards. This helps with memory, because for the first, second, third time they open the cards, they wouldn't know where anything is, but it will help them to note where this card is, to be able to connect it to where another card is. So over time, it helps to build focus, it helps to build concentration, and it helps them to build their memory. This thing seems like it's simple, but it actually does work. Another concentration game that you could expose your children to is sorting games. Get them to sort, especially for the younger children. What could they sort? For example, you could have a mixture of different sizes of grains in a small container and ask them to sort it. So you could get some grains of corn, grains of millet, grains of rice, grains of beans, and maybe sorghum or something, like 5 different types of grains. Mix them together, not in very large quantities, and just keep it for them and ask them to sort the grains into the respective grains you have in there. So these things help to build concentration. These things do work. Just give it a try, and I'm sure you'll come back with a positive feedback. And then, of course, this concentration is not something that they will build over a day or two. It's something that you expose them to consistently over time, and then with time they get better with their focus. And then another thing you have to do is to remove everything that is a distraction. Let's say a child wants to do some schoolwork. You don't get the child to be doing the schoolwork in the same area where he or she is supposed to be playing, or where people are talking, or where the TV is on. These things are distractions that will not help your child to focus. Let them know that there is a place and a time to study, and make sure that that place is conducive. There are no distractions. You have a table there, you have a chair there, you have every of their writing materials all brought together, because if everything they need is not in one place, they'll always come up with that excuse that they want to go and get one thing or the other, and it will break their concentration. But also understand that children might not be able to sit still for a long time. So in all these things, if they are doing some work, let them have breaks at designated times. Sometimes telling them to do something for 1 hour or 2 hours at a stretch might be too much to ask for. So they can work in short spurts of 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and then they could stretch their legs, do something else, and then get back to work. So I've talked about reducing screen time, exposing them to focus and concentration games, creating a distraction-free environment where they can do their work. And then another thing is to expose them to leisure reading. Reading helps to build concentration, build focus, and build the memory. Giving your children that legacy of reading is one of the best things you can do for them. And that's another thing that can help to limit screen time, because it's an alternative to studying, to watching TVs and using gadgets. But some people will say that children don't love reading. I tell you, for every child there's a book that they love. Some children might not like fiction, some children might like graphic novels or comics, others might like non-fiction and biographies. The thing is to find out what your child likes, and then you expose your child to that. We have another video on how to get your child to fall in love with reading. I'll put the link in the description of this video, so you can also watch that and help your children to fall in love with reading. Then, do you know that diet also has a role to play? When we expose our children or feed them a lot of sugary food and all that, it makes them hyperactive. Yes, this is not a myth. It is proven by science. So I want to encourage you to limit the children's intake of sugary foods and highly processed foods, and increase their intake of wholesome food, fruits and vegetables consistently. It helps to build their concentration. And there are some supplements too that really are very helpful. Children are normally encouraged, or it is advised by pediatricians, that children should take omega-3. It helps with memory and it helps with concentration. So those are the tips we have for today. Please try to put them into practice, and we are certain that you will have positive results. Once again, my name is Chineku Ore, and I'm your partner in raising outstanding children. Don't forget to share this video with other parents, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Cheers and have a great day. Bye.